we've been experiencing some of that retrograde delay, let's say, rerouting, everything. So I'm just lighting some copal here so we can cleanse and clear the space. Please welcome this and enter this sacred space, this beautiful temple of light. There's gold and silver light in a beautiful temple above and below you. And as you enter, you're between the worlds. You're wrapped in the all-seeing eye. You're connected to your intuitive network. You're rewiring back to your Akasha and your 5D non-judgmental perspective. It's a good place to be considering everything we are experiencing. And we're going to give great thanks to this sacred space and enter ready and willing, open and receptive to receive and release that which is optimal for my path, power, purpose, my highest good at this time. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I invite you to invite in any of your guides, angels, elementals. I have a lot of them that are with me, and I normally don't call them in by name during a public thing this way. However, this is Akasha, hi. And we've come through the eclipse and we still are unraveling the eclipse. We do not know all the things that have happened with the eclipse. If you have discovered some of them, like me and my students, we've been watching the upheavals and the challenges and the intensities and the fears and the different things that come up and that push our buttons. And the good part is that no matter how hard or painful it is, no matter how sticky and gooey or fearful those old powers or energies are that are getting poked up to the surface now, it's happening because our soul really, really needs us to acknowledge something, to accept something like ourselves and our powers, to reveal and release the hidden, the walls, the dungeons, the things that we've suppressed, that we've ignored, that we've created walls around energetically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. You can reflect these things in your life in any level of your reality, and it's why you are the creator of your reality, because I love this. I'm seeing you through this screen of wonderful cleansing copal. So it's this protective, because we are still in the dark energies, aren't we? We're eclipse and new moon. We're now Mercury retrograde. And today we're going to talk about reaccessing the power of retrograde, the idea of retrograde, what it means, and how do we find the power in that process. Because to just be afraid of Mercury retrograde or anything else is disempowering and silly, because if we hold fear of anything, we can be aware of it. We can say, I don't want to walk off that cliff. It won't end well for me, and I'll have to start over in a new body. Okay, I won't walk off the cliff. Okay. However, fear that's emotional, fear that's from other lives, fear that's from a deep core that says, I'm not good enough, or I'll fail, or I'll be killed, or I'll be burned at the stake, or I'll be criticized, or I'll lose this, or whatever it is, okay? So those are the illusions, those are the walls. And what is retrograde? Retrograde is an energy that it's not real, okay? Remember that we're talking intuitive astrology here. So we're watching the stars, but we're watching them from our perspective. We do not know the perspective of what Jupiter looks like if you were on Mars or if you were on the moon even, right? So every place has a different perspective. That means that everything, every planet, every place on that planet, every spot on this planet, every person on this planet has a different perspective. And that perspective should be respected and let that person have it, but it is not your perspective. So you can learn from other perspectives. You can realize, you can expand your consciousness back to your multidimensional nature by realizing, I could take on a different perspective. I'm the creator of my reality because if I decide that retrograde is a terrible time, it's funny because nobody used to talk about this ever. And it's been about 35 years or so since I started working on Mercury retrograde with a friend of mine, a beautiful spiritual dear friend, who was one of the most empowering friends that we would get together on a regular basis and dive into our pains and do all forms of spiritual practice and communication. We would do cards, we would do toning, we would do readings, we would do, it just was amazing. And she and I were, she was the first time I had heard of the idea of Mercury retrograde. So we decided to rewire retrograde. So what does retrograde mean? And if you take it apart and you say it's okay, and then you look at all the other re's out there, release, remember. Remember is interesting because we think of it as a memory, and accessing the memories that you've lost of the truth of who you are and the plan that your soul had is really important. So what if retrograde energy, instead of being like, oh no, now it means that, you know, my computer won't work, and, you know, we just had an experience right now of the common glitches that can happen in communication systems during a retrograde energy. However, are we going to turn our power over to it, or are we going to go with the flow? The minute you get upset about goals and times and this should have happened, and that's not fair, and why didn't this person this, you've gone off your path. You are not in your center. You are not being yourself. You cannot access the communication, the powers, the guidance from everything around you. Okay, the air is speaking to you. These crystals are speaking to you. Your chair is speaking to you. Everything has some kind of energy. So if it's there and you tune into everything, you get overwhelmed, you go nuts, and you have an overwhelming Kundalini experience, or like one of my clients used to just go around nonstop, bombarded by input, and she didn't know how to discern it, how to activate her light body, how to create protective light grids within her field that both allowed information to come into her that was optimal and allowed shit to go out that wasn't. We can't tune into everything, and we're not meant to, especially our conscious mind. Your conscious mind is very much the pinnacle. Right. So I asked which pyramid we should play with, and this is the rose quartz one. So we have love, 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 and we have our Shri Yantra here at the center. And the reason that I've spent so much time studying the mystery schools, becoming a homeopathic doctor, looking into any kind of vibrational medicine, learning all energy field medicine, radionics, Rife, Skio, whatever you want to call it now, even became a massage therapist, learned, I started out in the medical field in physical therapy. And so to me, this is copper. Okay, here's a crystal, here's a spiral. This is rose quartz. This copper in here, maybe gold as well, I'm not sure. Anyway, this is all inside of something called organite, which amplifies energy. So there's a purpose for all of this. But if you look at the pyramidal energy, okay, so you could look at this as mystical and magical. You could look at this as scientific. You could look at this as practical because it's used in engineering. Crystals are used. Shapes, sacred shapes like this are used. The pyramid has a shape for a reason. So I see this as the pinnacle life and the pinnacle level of you. And if you rise out of the story and the fear and the drama and the lack and the loss and all the things you've carried in your body and your cells, because you came with a certain plan in your soul. You came with a plan to use this life, what I'm calling your pinnacle life, in your soul to clear and cleanse the massive amount of fear, pain, loss, wow, torture, you name it. One of the things that has risen for me in the eclipse is massive pain, torture type pain, and it's taken me down through layers of old fears and depression, of being denied, being controlled, being hurt, being tortured, literally. I have 2 abscesses under my molar here, and it took a day and a half for it to really isolate. So I was having pain through all these teeth, pain through all these teeth, pain in my bones, pain in my eye, in my ear, and so on and so forth. And I still have up here, it's massive. And so this is something like, oh, okay, I hate the dentist. I cannot tell you how much I hate it and how many horrible, torturous experiences I've had in this life alone with that. And therefore, for me, it's very karmic. It carries a major lesson. And because it's an eclipse and it's turning us and taking us in a new direction, you don't have a choice on the direction. You do from the perspective of who you're being in the moment with what's happening. So in the moment when you discover something like this, I had to go at midnight, 45 minutes away, to an emergency room. The pain was so severe. And then I went to the dentist, and tomorrow I'm going to be having surgery. So it's a series of things that I never wanted to do again. So it just went, the eclipse went deep into the darkest parts of me, most of which I have healed, which just means become whole with. I've released my attachment to fears of pain and things like that. However, when this comes up and slaps you in the face so severe you can't think straight, and you're like, well, I'm doing my stuff. Are you doing your stuff? I'm doing my work, and I'm meditation, and I'm teaching, and I'm on my path, and I'm living my purpose. Why? What? Okay, well, the only good to asking that question, and I'm just giving you my example so you can apply it to whatever you're doing, okay, is whatever's coming up for you, because it's coming up for everybody. And it's coming up in many different directions and ways, and it's going to unfold for a while. It's not all known already, even though the eclipse was several days back. So the opportunity, I had my daughter Jordan Ann died, and she came back and said, everything is an opportunity. And it became my mantra. It became my lifeline. It's the reason, one of the few reasons that I'm still alive. I didn't want to stay alive after she died. Nothing had any meaning for me anymore. And I had to go so deep into the underworld, so deep into the shadows, so deep into grief, so deep into pain and loss and failure and self-judgment and everything that I brought into this life that I didn't know at the time, but I was deep into my spiritual work. I was, gosh, that's an interesting question. I don't know, actually, right now. I think I was about 4 or 5 years into my spiritual path when Jordan died. And thankfully, I don't think I would have survived it at all if I didn't have any understanding of spirituality and other dimensions and the multidimensional reality of who we are and the fact that we're eternal and so on and so forth. So, however, when you go, and I know you've been there, I know you have and have had your deep pains, your deep losses, your feelings of powerlessness, your feelings that something's been taken from you, your feeling that you have no control or power to change your life, to have what you want, or you don't deserve what you want. And when these deep, excruciating experiences come up, they take your attention away from everything in your life. So like an eclipse, they cut off your ability to stay focused to small drama and to others' opinions and to this worry and that worry. It just boom, 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 right? When something major happens, everything fades away and you go into that moment. So the first thing to remember is if you're in an eclipse energy right now, which we are, and the retrograde, okay, so new moon and eclipse are both about darkness, right? Being cut off or being in the dark, not being able to see or perceive, which is why a lot of my spirit training and a lot of my shamanic training has been with the jaguar and the cat energy, the ability to see in the dark, to see shadows, to see through the worlds, to see but be unseen. And this is something that you need to develop, all forms of vision, inner vision and visual types. It doesn't have to be visual like this. This is an intuitive scale of communication. So when this deep grief happens, it can be so overwhelming. You don't want to live. You can't handle it anymore. And so for me, what is happening right now is a little bit like shit. I thought it wasn't supposed to hit me really hard. However, it hit me in one of my soft spots, which is I really don't like pain. And it requires an enormous amount of my focus and all of my skills of mastery to go into the dentist's office, much less to sit in the chair and go through all of the experiences for many different reasons. Lives of, I can't breathe and I have allergies, and then this triggers fears from lives, some fully remembered, some partially remembered, some unremembered, and that's okay. You don't need to know all of your other lives that contribute to a particular fear, and then the fears gather together to create a bigger core issue for you. Like maybe you're afraid to speak up, or maybe you avoid things that are painful and then end up with worse issues later, you know. That has been a theme. And the idea of it being an abscess, it's buried under, it's in the roots. So you need to read the energy of what's happening to you, okay? So for me, it's in my jaw and it's in my root, and I've seen the picture now in the dentist of exactly where it is, so I can even visualize it better, but it's down in those roots. So what are roots, and what is the foundation, and what does a jaw do? A jaw makes you able to what? Speak and to eat. It's pretty important. It's also vibrationally an antenna. Your bones are, especially the bones here. There's certain headsets that I don't know if they still come out now, but they used to use the vibration in your jaw to send the signal of the voice instead of in the ear. And so I am being gifted an opportunity to go deep into what does this mean for me? And there's the usual things that you can look up. Louise Hay, of course. What does a jaw mean? What does bones mean? What do teeth mean? However, if they don't resonate with you completely, I suggest you cruise around, and you cruise around out there on Google, and then you cruise around in here, asking, looking, poking things, seeing if memories come up, seeing if other parts of you can communicate with you and let you know, what does this mean? The most important thing is stop and listen. So whether it's deep grief pain, deep physical pain, or fear of torture. So what it's triggered for me was a depression, because what the series of programs that was still operating way in the background. I have over time dismantled the mental pathways, the actual neural pathways in the brain, to the beliefs in the mind, to the energies in the chakras, like every layer of my light body that could hold these negative beliefs of I'm not good enough, or whatever, I'm powerless, or whatever. Then the opportunity comes up now. I know, as much as I don't want this experience, as much as I know it's going to take all of my skills and power to show up and to go through it in the most ease. It's not that there won't be pain. It's not that there won't be these horrible moments where I have all this crap in my mouth and I don't know if I can breathe and blah, 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 okay? So we have to look at life as this is what it is, okay? Right now, this is what it is. And I have to walk around it or through it or past it. It's on my path. So if I ignore it, I stay stuck. If I bury my head in the sand and try to look at other stuff or do other stuff, it'll get bigger or get worse, or it'll spread, or it'll attract more shit. This is the way energy works. Okay, so look at anything that's coming up for you now and at any point from the perspective of an opportunity to remember. Now, remember is remembering. So if my arm came off and then I put it back on, that's remembering. This is a part of me. This is a member of me. So if I remember, but I don't want to reassemble myself, so look at all the words: review, replenish, renew, rejuvenate, release, rewire, reassess, reorganize. They go on and on and on. I want you to really play with this, because we have a lot of retrogrades. We get 4 times a year. We have Mercury in retrograde. It's the one that's most talked about. And what is Mercury? Mercury is the communication. It's the messenger of the gods. It's your God self. It's your higher self. It's your soul blueprint talking to you. It's talking to you through every possible guide it can. If you talk with dolphins, it'll talk to you through dolphins. If you listen to crystals or dragons, it will talk through those things. If you're not able to hear anything because you're convinced you can't, but you can get sudden images flashing in your mind, it will speak to you through that. This is the reason for developing your intuition ASAP on a consistent daily basis so that you can constantly be in flow with all the energies that can help. So my first attitude was, oh my God, this is the most excruciating pain, and watching and witnessing what kind of thoughts, feelings, old beliefs, etc. was it triggering in me, in my body, in my light body, in the entire field. As those started to come up, I was in review. Then I realized, oh, Mercury retrograde. So Mercury retrograde, that means communication that you may have forgotten, that messages from your higher self or parts of your soul blueprint or your purpose or your path or your powers in this life, you may have forgotten them. Okay, well, if you've forgotten them or you suppress them or you hold fears and wounds that fester in the roots of your being and you're trying to speak your truth, right? And this is still there. You can't keep pushing forward until you go down into those deep roots, those deep dungeons, and you discover what it is. You're not going back there. You're reviewing it. You're remembering it. You're reconnecting to it. You're reassessing it. And then you're making a decision. So for my decision has had to be a series of what kind of treatment do I have? So I am a healer. I do all kinds of treatment. I'm doing all of that myself. What outside healers am I using? I'm going to an acupuncturist and so on and so forth. Do I have this surgery? What kind of surgery? In what way? What material? You know, there's just all these choices that I have to make because I'm very, very, very picky about my health care. I don't let anybody touch me without the right energies. I don't listen. I take in the advice, the pills, the this, that, whatever it is, like everybody, this is, okay, that's your opinion, that's your opinion, that's your opinion, and then I review it. So this is good at any time because you then need to test what is optimal for you. I had to go within, outside of the fear, and say, okay, despite the fact that there's part of me that's telling me this is a failure, and now I'm going back into the dungeons and I'm going to be tortured again, and it means this. It doesn't mean that. I get a chance to redecide, redesign, rewrite what it means. So retrograde is giving you, in any form, is giving you an opportunity to rewrite, to redesign. All right. When you review something, you don't go back to it and try to make it happen again. We don't want anything that's happened in the past in the way that it happened in the past. You can say, I would love my childhood innocence. I would love my intuitive abilities to see the fairies from when I was little. I would love to be, you know, be happy or flexible or strong or athletic again, whatever it is. But you don't want to be the person you were, because at that time in that consciousness, there were other issues you don't have anymore. You don't want to turn. All right. So when we leave for the journey of the hero, our heroine journey that we're on all the time. Give me a second here. I'm going to try to plug in. There it is. Plug straight into the router so we don't have any internet problems. There we go. And so what we want to do is reassess where retrograde ideas are taking our power and where we can help them empower us. All right. And empowering us means that we have, are we okay? Oh, good. Hi, Olga and Sylvia and Enza. Amethyst and white crystals, beautiful. I have an aquamarine. Oh, one of these. Yes, yes. Aren't these fabulous? I know I have gold and citrine, and I have an amethyst one, and this dragon is filled with all kinds of goodies too. This lady made it for me, similar. So, so retrograde is a powerful opportunity. And the same way, the reason I call this spiritual weather report is that we have an opportunity to look at the weather. So the weather today is going to be very hot, and it was already very windy this morning. And Chris likes to go for a walk on the beach, and we have to look at the tide. If it's in too far, then we don't have much beach to walk on. And if the wind is too high, the temperature is too hot, whatever. So he looked at that to decide and went for a walk very early this morning. That's what I want you to do with this kind of information on the spiritual weather reports. We're still going through the eclipse. You can go back to the eclipse meditations, to the eclipse shows that I've done, the new moon show. You can go back once you start to see something happen and go, oh, okay. That's when this happened. I have so many friends who don't have a clue we even had an eclipse, and they were telling me, oh my God, I'm so sick, and this happened and that happened. It was so weird, and it came out of nowhere, and it cut me off from this and that. And I was like, hello, eclipse. So it helps us understand what we're going through. It helps us decipher what we're going through, and it helps us understand the lessons, not lessons that are mean, but opportunities. So the first thing I want to know is, other than managing the pain, which was beyond excruciating for a day and a half, and it's still there. Yesterday, I really couldn't do anything but lay in certain positions, and today I'm a little better. So I have a lot of appointments today, so I'm going to be traveling the ethers with my clients, doing third eye openings and other beautiful journeys, and we're going to see what's going on. And that's what I love about what I do, is I get to see the patterns that are unfolding for you and for my students, and what's coming up from the eclipse for you. And so I'm telling you that you have to look at it as an opportunity, and you have to say, wow, this is intense. And then I witnessed the part of myself that was trying to make it mean something, that I failed again, that I didn't get out, that I got pulled back in, that I'm never going to be out of the dungeons and be free. I'm going to have to be living down in the torture chambers forever. And that's a description of the energy that embodies actual lives of being tortured, being killed, being, power being taken away, all forms of owning your power. So I can tell you right now that whatever you're working on, whatever's coming up, is a part of your soul purpose and path, and the destiny portion of it, which means got to get back on the path. Got to get back on the path. We're all now having this extreme experience, and we have to unplug from everybody's opinions, because they're coming nonstop, and they're coming so fast, and they're all somebody else's perspective. All right. And when you come more into your center, you're going to have that perspective. This is 5D consciousness. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, this platform that you've been living on is for second, third, fourth dimension. All right. And when you rise up and you look back down, you don't judge, you just see. And I want you to realize that retrograde energy is supporting you to review, revisit, redesign, release, okay? Remember, reconnect, re-empower, re-embrace, re-embody powers that you've forgotten you had. What I can tell you right now that is kind of a new thing I'm seeing is I've seen other lives been coming up, okay, a lot for people. And that's been going on for years and years and years. Past lives are no longer if and what and maybe. They are so important that we have to stop what we're doing, and we have to step into the moment, because our soul's life is not rushing an agenda. Our soul's path is not a goal of obligations to everyone else to be on that agenda. You've got to unplug and create your own agenda. What if you reviewed your schedule? What if you reviewed who you are being in your life? Are you overscheduled? Are you too busy? Are you always running into an issue? Do you resist? Wow, is that showing you a lot? So right now we're in Mercury retrograde, and then Pluto's going to go retrograde, and Pluto's entered Aquarius, and that's a whole thing. So that's death and rebirth and endings and beginnings and karma. And that cycles are going and they're showing. And Aquarius is that higher mind, but it goes all the way from one side, which is complete independence. Don't tell me what to do. I want to be my independent spiritual being, all the way to the other end of the scale, because it's two sides of the same thing, of these crazy laws people are trying to pass now about controlling everybody and everything and blaming everybody and blaming everything. And so you can dial where you are. And if you look at where you're resisting, well, where am I resisting? I've refused to go to the dentist for years because of the pain that I've been put through, the money that it's cost me, the failure that it came to, okay? And so I've been doing all my own treatments saying, you know, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going back into that world. And now a door has opened that said, you have these pockets of infection. So you have to think about that in a bigger perspective. So I do have to review this and see, is there communication here I'm not hearing, or is there a treasure here? Because the doorway that's being held open by Pluto going through, let's finish this and let's start something new, and let's finish this and let's start something new. Let's go through the shadow world. Let's go through the underworld. You have to. In every culture in the past, there's Xibalba. There's the underworld and the above world. There's the light and the dark. They're not good and bad. We've had a lot of things like Christianity try to turn it into the devil, into evil, into hell, into burning. And in the underworld, which is Pluto, is the god of the underworld, we do have that capacity to go into the shadows, and we are going and looking into our own dungeons, our own fears, our own shadows, and where we're attached to other people's. This is where reviewing and using retrograde energy, especially with Mercury, who's a communicator and is a communicator messenger of the gods, or your pinnacle self, or your higher self, or your Akashic self, or the parts of you that have had that experience, or your other selves. So use the retrograde times not to feel frustrated if things don't connect. Maybe it's saying reboot, reboot, reconnect. We had to reboot last night. I don't know how many different things, from the router and the TV and this computer and that thing, because certain things would not connect. And it was just a clean slate. It was like, go shut everything down and give it a break, and then reboot. Where can you reboot your inner money machine? Where could you reboot your inner confidence? Where could you reboot from the pain or the fear or the loss or the confusion or the overwhelm, or even the massive opportunities? Oh my God, the opportunities that are opening up right now for most people too are just as gigantic as the fears and the pain. So both sides of the scale are opening, and we're starting to see we're standing in the middle. We're between these two worlds. We have the dial in our hand. Do we go back and re-enter where we were and reconnect to that and reattach to those fears and re-embody that identity of failure and fear? Or do we say, oh no, this is just coming up for my review? And can I take that retrograde energy and say, okay, let's review, because the answers are here, the secrets are here, the answers to this are here. And if I don't do my inner work, this will find a way back again. Somebody can saw this off or poke that or inject this or whatever, but the body is the last place that these fears, these manifestations appear. It means this exists in my aura, and this exists in my mental field, and in some form of belief or fear or identity or something I'm still attached to. And then this exists within my emotional field, and so on and so on and so on. So this is an opportunity. Whatever your experience is an opportunity. So let's rewire ourselves and renew ourselves, and we can start to see what's happening. Okay, where'd you go? There you are. Okay. I want to just show you. I'm not sure that I've kind of talked through most of this, but So what I really want to do is show you that we have more power than we think. And so stop giving your power over, reclaim your power. There's a thing to do right now. And I want to show you some of the retrogrades that are coming up. On May 1st, which is a few days away, Pluto goes retrograde. And Pluto has been a big topic of conversation. I've talked about it already. We're talking about it now. And that idea of this underworld god, the master of your shadow world, the master of your creative world, because the womb and the feminine and the yin is dark, and the dirt and the earth is rich and dark, and this is where seeds are formed and bodies are formed and things are created. So dark is not bad. So you want to not be afraid of your dark, so you can go in and do that. Let's see if I can, I used to have a big list here, and I do have something in the shop. If you want to go over to shop.nanakasha.com, there is a free report over there for you, and it's called something Mercury Retrograde Emergency Help or something like that. And I talk a lot more about retrograde, especially Mercury retrograde. And I'm not seeing it here. That's weird. Okay. So here, let me share now. I want you to see the retrogrades, so then we can dive into our meditation. Okay, so let's see here real quick. And so what we have is any kind of retrograde. I want you to look at a map. It'd be good if you mapped it out on your calendar. And you said, okay, there's a retrograde coming up. And that means it's just like looking at a map and saying, oh, we're going to be driving through the mountains and there's going to be snow. We should prepare by putting, chains on our tires, or we should reroute a different direction. And you want to know that these are coming up because I want you to reaccess the power inside of it. It isn't bad. Nobody's actually going backwards. Few more days, we've got the third eye opening session available. You can purchase it and you can do it anytime in the next few months, but it's going to go away on May 1st. So it's pretty epic and very relevant right now to everything. And remember, we have a retreat coming up in July and in December. So talk to me about that because the energies are coming together with magic. And we also have a series coming up starting on May 5th called Who Am I? Becoming. So instead of the classic question, who am I? We're going to just dive in with several different speakers. And next, we're going to be doing a retrograde empowerment journey on the meditation. So I've been sharing that, we've been hit with this. Now, the meaning, the quality, the powers of retrograde that I've been sharing with you are there for you to use. Every energy has a light and a dark on it. So what you can do is rewire what retrograde means, and then you're going to be able to have even more power to access the ancient powers that you've forgotten. So Mercury is a messenger, and you're going to get a multi-sensory renewal. So renewal is another retrograde energy. Now, you could reconnect to pain and the past and the fear and the dungeons and be upset and feel like you're never going to be free, that you've been recaptured. Okay, so keep looking at that because all this is an opportunity. Your soul is saying, the eclipse is saying, this is what you need to look at. And now we have the communicator, the messenger for you, helping you to review what's underneath the shift that's happening right now. Very few people understand this secret mystery, okay? And the energies that you can change your perspective, your state, your how you interpret. You can rewire these patterns that start to tell you this is bad, you're bad, there's no good, or whatever it is. You witness those and you watch them while you reconnect to the power of your past, the power of your soul, the power of your higher self, the power of your body elemental. You have a lot of powers, but you forget and you get caught in your fear. And then we go in and we try to do it ourselves, or we hide, or we go re-enter the comfort of those. So I want you to work with the energies and co-create and flow and prosper. And I want to see you rise through these changes. All right. So Mercury is going to be retrograde until May 14th. So you've got a few weeks of this, and you want to try to go back and retrace or review, but not go back and re-embody the past. So anytime you feel it trying to take over your mindset, your perspective, your beliefs, or what it means, step back and review it like you're looking at it from a higher perspective. Connect to your higher self, connect to your intuitive network, connect to your Akashic pinnacle self, and ask that this inside job, being a fresh slate for your inner soul, ask the universe and all the guides that are optimal for you in this moment to take you to your inner soul magic. Where is the door inside the pain? Pause to look back and do it because you're ready to move forward. Look at how life was, thank it, and then you turn to face the unknown new life. So what's on the other side of this experience for me and my jaw and the other things that are happening? Well, at the same time as this horror show for me going on in my jaw, other things are opening that are so magical and so fantastic that they're at an equal level of this, above and below. And I'm experiencing them both without getting sucked into something that's going to take me out of the moment. So you could have left something undone. You could have missed a message. You don't want to be out on your spy mission and not know how to use your special tools. So when you get the key messages from Mercury right now in retrograde, you can realize, okay, that's another realize that you have access up and down the timeline to go to these other parts of you, to connect with the parts that are ready to be released, to connect with the parts that are talking or holding on to infection or fear or toxicity, or hiding underneath the roots, or making the foundation unstable. Okay, these are all the things that are going on for me, is what this tooth issue is telling me. So you knew this may be something that you knew that it was required, and it is urgent now. So here is Mercury now until May 14th, like we said. Pluto is going on the 1st, so we're already feeling that retrograde energy. It's in its hanging shadow phase, or its phase of beginning, slowing down to get ready to supposedly, our perspective, our relationship with it will be going in reverse. That's all retrograde means. Nobody's actually going in reverse. It's how we relate to it. So Pluto, we talked a lot about death and rebirth. Saturn is strict and structure and is really good at helping you become an expert, helping you make sure it's done right, helping you make sure you didn't forget anything, but can also be very strict, very cruel, very difficult as well. And that retrograde isn't happening until June, but write these down because that will be an opportunity. We'll talk more about that before we get to that in June. Then Neptune is starting in June as well. And Neptune is, these are all named after gods, right? So Neptune is the Poseidon, is the god of the sea. And this is intuition. And this is very, very ethereal energy. So this means you get to go review, replenish, renew, reassess, reconnect, whatever, with Neptune for a time. Venus, of course, is what you love and is creative powers. So you get to go review and reassess and redesign with Venus during these times. And then Uranus, we've talked about Mercury. Uranus is sudden change, is the innovator. It wants to go in a new direction. It wants to go now. It creates a lot of chaos often when it happens. However, going into retrograde means it's going to help you review changes, sudden directions, or desires for new direction changes, and help you rewire them or reopen them. And this can be a very exciting time. Jupiter expands everything. Jupiter is good luck, good fortune. So in retrograde, it's going to amplify anything that you replenish or reconnect to. And again, you want to look at how you use those energies to your highest good during September 4th to December 30th. And then we have another Mercury retrograde. So what do you need to let go of? What needs to be reassessed as to its relevance? There's another re-word, and the value in your life now. Reintroduce yourself to your shadows and your powers and be willing to accept and own all of you. Okay, retrograde, we talked about this in the beginning, means from our perspective, it's going backwards. Remember, the sun and the moon never go retrograde. Here's some planets, and the Pluto we talked a lot about, so we really don't need any more of this information. And let's see, it is also important to note that Pluto is very much like the phoenix, right? It is burning everything to ashes to the ground and then being reborn, new, beautiful, fully formed, full of new colors, all right? So think about what messages you've missed or forgotten. See if there's anything that you need to reintegrate, reutilize, reunite with. And remember that we're in Taurus season, so it's about earth and manifestation and comfort and home and wealth and the reflection. Note the reflections, not rejections, but there are rejecting. You can reject, or you can remember being rejected. That's another re-word. Or you can reject the meaning of rejection and decide not to use that. But this is supposed to say reflections in your physical body and home. And we do have another eclipse. We're between eclipses. So remember that between eclipses is just as intense as the eclipse, because one starts it. Now we're in this strange in-between world until the lunar eclipse on May 5th in Scorpio. Okay, good. So we are going to close up now, and I will see you in a moment for the meditation. Namaste.